Imagine it's 2035. You're standing at a gas station in suburban Ohio. The pump clicks off at $187.43 for half a tank. You stare at the number. You do the math. That's more than your car payment. Inside, a loaf of bread costs $11. The clerk shrugs when you ask why. Everything's up, she says. Hasn't stopped in 2 years. You drive home. You pass a strip mall that used to have a Target, a Chili's, a nail salon. Now it's a check cashing place, a pawn shop, and a lot of empty windows. The Chili's sign is still up, but the parking lot has weeds pushing through the cracks. You check your phone. Your mortgage rate just adjusted. It was 3.2% when you bought the house. Now it's 11.4%. Your monthly payment nearly doubled. The bank sent a letter. They're being flexible. That's not a comfort. You ask yourself, what happened? The news says it was inevitable. Global realignment, multipolar transition. Words that mean nothing when you're trying to figure out how to pay for your kids' braces. But there's another story, one they don't tell you on the evening news. A story about pipes and plumbing and what happens when someone threatens the invisible machinery that makes your money mean something. This is that story. I'm the case officer, and I'm opening a file most people don't even know exists. Let's start with a number that will make your eyes glaze over, then I'll show you why it shouldn't. 89.2%. That's the share of all foreign exchange trades on Earth that touch the US dollar. Not American trades, all trades, everywhere. A company in Vietnam selling shoes to Germany, they settle in dollars. An oil tanker sailing from Saudi Arabia to Japan, priced in dollars. A tech firm in Brazil buying servers from Taiwan, dollars. The dollar isn't just America's currency, it's the world's operating system. 57%. That's the share of global reserves held in dollars, down from 70% in 2000, but still dominant. Central banks from Beijing to Berlin keep dollars in their vaults because when things go wrong, war, recession, pandemic, dollars are what everyone wants. 38.5 trillion. That's the US federal debt as of December 2025. A number so large it stopped meaning anything to most people. It's just big. Scary big, but abstract. Here's how to make it concrete. Imagine the US government as a family. They earn about $4.4 trillion a year in taxes, but they spend about $6.5 trillion. Every year they put $2 trillion on the credit card, and they've been doing this for decades. Normally, if you ran your household like this, the bank would cut you off. Your credit score would crater. Debt collectors would start calling. But the US government isn't a normal household, because the US government has something no family has. The world needs dollars. Here's where the story gets strange, and a little dark. For 50 years, we've been told the dollar is backed by the full faith and credit of the United States. That sounds nice, official. But what does it actually mean? It means this. The dollar is backed by the fact that if you want to participate in the global economy, you need dollars. To buy oil, to settle trades, to hold reserves. The demand is baked into the plumbing, and the plumbing was built on purpose. Go back to 1974, the oil shock just ended. Arab nations had embargoed America, and the most powerful economy on earth was brought to its knees by gas lines. Nixon's people realized something terrifying. American power runs on oil America doesn't control. They made a deal. Not a treaty, not a public pact, a handshake arrangement with Saudi Arabia. The Saudis would price all their oil in dollars and invest their surplus in US Treasury bonds. In exchange, America would guarantee Saudi security, weapons, protection, the works. Within a year, every OPEC nation followed. Not because they were forced, because it made sense. The dollar market was deep. The hedging was cheap. The liquidity was unmatched. This created a loop, a beautiful, self-reinforcing loop. The world needs oil, so they need dollars. Dollars flow to oil exporters. Exporters invest in treasuries. America gets cheap financing. America can run deficits forever. America prints more dollars. Go back to step one. This is what people mean when they say petrodollar. Not a single secret contract. A system, an architecture, a set of pipes that route the world's wealth through American institutions. And here's the thing about pipes. They work so well, you forget they're there, until someone threatens to reroute them. November 2000. Baghdad. Saddam Hussein does something that barely makes the news. He requests a change to the UN Oil for Food program. Instead of receiving oil revenues in dollars, he wants euros. The UN approves it. Iraq becomes the first major oil exporter to break the dollar benchmark. At the time, analysts shrugged. Symbolic, they said. A protest gesture. Nothing structural. But symbols can become signals. 28 months later, American tanks roll into Baghdad. The official reason? Weapons of mass destruction. You remember the footage. Colin Powell at the UN with the vial. The satellite photos. The aluminum tubes. The slam-dunk intelligence. You also remember what came after. The weapons weren't there. The CIA's own post-war report confirmed it. The casus belli collapsed. So what was the real reason? I'm not going to tell you I know, because I don't. Nobody does with certainty. Wars are multi-causal. Security fears, neoconservative ideology, regional power plays, oil access, unfinished business from 1991. All documented, all debated. But I will tell you this. Within months of regime change, Iraq's oil was back on the dollar. The euro experiment ended. The benchmark was restored. Coincidence? Maybe. But file it away. We're building a pattern. February 2011. Tripoli. The Arab Spring reaches Libya. Civil war erupts. The UN Security Council authorizes a no-fly zone to protect civilians. NATO executes the mandate. Within months, Muammar Gaddafi is dead, bayoneted in a drainage ditch. His regime erased. Now here's where the internet gets loud. You've probably heard the theory. Gaddafi wasn't killed for human rights. He was killed because he planned to launch a gold-backed African currency, the gold dinar, a direct threat to dollar hegemony. It's a clean story. It fits the pattern. It confirms what you want to believe. There's just one problem. The evidence is thin. Did Gaddafi talk about Pan-African financial independence? Yes, for years. Did he hold gold reserves? Yes, about 143 tons. Did he have a concrete, imminent plan to launch a new currency? That's where the receipts go missing. There's an email. You've probably seen it cited. Sidney Blumenthal to Hillary Clinton, April 2011. Subject line, France's client and Gaddafi's gold. The email mentions French concerns about Libyan gold and African currency ambitions. But read it carefully. It describes French motivations, not American policy. It's one data point, not a smoking gun. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to mark this one disputed, not because the theory is crazy, but because credibility matters more than narrative. If I build this case on weak foundations, the whole thing collapses. We note Libya, we flag the rumor, we move on. Venezuela is different. Venezuela has receipts. Picture this. You're a petroleum engineer in Maracaibo. Third generation. Your grandfather worked the rigs when Rockefeller's men first came down. Your father survived the nationalizations. You thought you'd ride out the Chavez years and retire comfortable. Instead, you're watching the country eat itself. The reserves are still there. 300 billion barrels. The largest proven oil reserves on Earth. Enough to matter. Enough to threaten. For 2 decades under Chavez and then Maduro, Venezuela tested every boundary of dollar dependence. Yuan trades with China. Ruble settlements with Russia. The petro-cryptocurrency, a digital token backed by oil, specifically designed to bypass American financial rails, gone. And the American response? Documented. Public. Escalating. Executive orders. Treasury designations. OFAC sanctions. Asset freezes. A parallel government recognized by Washington. the full toolkit. By 2025, Venezuela had applied for BRICS partnership. Brazil blocked it, but the signal was clear. Caracas wanted out of the dollar orbit entirely. Then came December 31, 2025. Treasury announced new actions targeting Venezuelan oil sanctions evasion. 4 days later, January 3, 2026, U.S. forces launched Operation Absolute Resolve. Maduro was captured. The stated objectives: counter narcotics, restoring democracy, protecting regional stability. Now, was this petrodollar enforcement? Here's what I can tell you. The U.S. didn't launch Absolute Resolve because someone in a room decided to be evil. That's not how systems work. Systems don't have intentions. They have pressures. They have incentives. They have leak detection. When a nation with 300 billion barrels of oil starts routing payments through yuan and rubles, the pipes don't care about intentions. They register a pressure drop. And pressure drops get fixed. Not because of conspiracy, because that's what systems do. 3 nations, 3 challenges to dollar pricing, 3 outcomes involving regime change or pressure. That's not proof, that's pattern recognition. And patterns are what this file tracks. Now let me bring this back to you, to that gas station, to that mortgage payment, to the bread that costs $11. The system I just described isn't just geopolitics. It's the invisible scaffolding holding up your life. Here's how it works. Or rather, here's what happens when it stops working. The U.S. runs deficits because it can. Foreign nations buy treasuries because they need dollars. As long as they need dollars, the U.S. can borrow cheap. As long as the U.S. can borrow cheap, your mortgage rate stays low. Your credit card APR stays manageable. The price of everything imported, which is almost everything, stays stable. But what if they stop needing dollars? What if the Saudis start accepting yuan? What if BRICS builds a settlement system that bypasses SWIFT? What if central banks stop showing up to treasury auctions? Then the math changes. Fast. If foreign demand for treasuries drops, the U.S. has to offer higher yields to attract buyers. Higher yields mean higher interest rates across the entire economy. Your mortgage rate spikes. Your car loan gets expensive. Credit card APRs hit loan shark territory. The dollar weakens. Import prices surge. That loaf of bread? $11 is just the beginning. Your 401k bond allocation, the safe part of your retirement, turns red overnight. Because treasuries aren't safe when the buyers disappear. This isn't science fiction. This is the math that keeps Fed economists awake at 3 a.m. The system isn't collapsing. Not tomorrow. Not next year. But it's being tested. Every BRICS summit, every yuan settlement, every gold purchase by central banks hedging their bets. And tested systems do one of 2 things. They adapt, or they accumulate stress until something gives. So where does that leave us? The dollar remains dominant. Let's not pretend otherwise. 57% of reserves, 89% of FX trades. No rival comes close. But dominant isn't invincible. The British pound was dominant once. So was the Spanish dollar. So was the Dutch guilder. History doesn't end reserve currencies overnight. History renegotiates them. Usually after stress reveals dependencies no one wanted to admit. The real question isn't whether the dollar dies. Currencies don't die like people. They fade. They share space. They get renegotiated. The real question is whether America can keep paying the price of being the default, and whether the rest of the world keeps agreeing that price is worth it. Right now, the answer is yes. Barely. Grudgingly. But yes. The pipes are still flowing. The plumbing still works. The system still holds. But every system has a maintenance cost. And maintenance costs compound. 3 nations challenged the architecture. 3 nations faced consequences. Iraq, Libya, Venezuela. I'm not telling you what to conclude. I'm showing you what happened. The pattern doesn't prove. The pattern suggests. And in this business, suggestions are enough to keep watching. This is the case officer. File 001. Status, open. The system you never think about is the system you can't afford to lose. Keep watching the patterns. They'll keep watching you.